Have you ever felt like the moment you start improving your life, something shifts around you? Not always openly, not always aggressively, but subtly. You become more disciplined, more focused, more ambitious, and suddenly the energy changes. The jokes get sharper, the support feels thinner, the distance grows. It's a strange experience. Modern society says it loves success. It celebrates winners, highlights billionaires, worships celebrities, and reposts motivational quotes every day. But when someone close actually begins rising, mentally, financially, physically, the reaction is often complicated. Growth creates contrast. When you level up, you unintentionally become a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable. Your progress forces people to confront their own choices, not because you're judging them, but because your actions quietly ask a question: why not you? Most people aren't consciously threatened. They're unconsciously unsettled. Humans are wired for belonging. For most of history, survival meant staying aligned with the tribe. Standing out too much could get you isolated. That instinct hasn't disappeared. It just evolved. Today, being too ambitious, too disciplined, or too different can still trigger subtle social resistance. You might hear things like, "You've changed," or "Why are you taking it so seriously?" On the surface, it sounds harmless. Underneath, it's pressure to return to the familiar version of you. Society runs smoothly when people follow predictable patterns. Go to school. Get a stable job. Stay within acceptable ambition levels. Don't disrupt the balance. The system is built around averages. When someone pushes far beyond average, they create tension. And tension makes people uncomfortable. The truth is, rising above requires separation before recognition. There's always a phase where you're no longer who you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming. During that in-between stage, support often fades. Applause usually comes later. That gap is where many people give up, not because they lack ability, but because social friction is heavier than they expected. When you start building momentum in your life, it disrupts the emotional balance of the people around you. Groups operate on unspoken agreements, similar income levels, similar habits, similar ambitions, similar complaints. That sameness creates comfort. The moment one person accelerates, the rhythm changes. If you begin waking up earlier, working harder, thinking bigger, saving money, investing in yourself, your growth quietly challenges the group's identity. Even if you never say a word about it, your actions speak loudly. They suggest that more is possible. And possibility can feel threatening. Because if more is possible, then stagnation becomes a choice. Most people don't consciously think this way. It happens beneath awareness. They just feel a slight irritation, a subtle distance, a need to downplay your efforts. Sometimes they'll joke about you trying too hard. Sometimes they'll minimize your wins. Sometimes they'll remind you to relax or be realistic. It's rarely direct sabotage. It's social gravity. People pull each other toward the familiar. There's also the issue of identity preservation. Within every social circle, roles get assigned. The funny one, the responsible one, the lazy one, the dreamer, the risk taker. When you start evolving beyond your assigned role, it unsettles the dynamic. If you were always the laid-back friend and suddenly become disciplined and focused, it forces everyone to update their perception of you. And updating perceptions takes effort. It's easier to pressure you back into the old version. Modern society also conditions people to equate comfort with happiness. If you reject comfort, if you choose difficulty, sacrifice, long-term vision, it feels abnormal. You stand out. And standing out invites scrutiny. There's a quiet cultural message that says, succeed, but not too much. Improve, but not so drastically that you outgrow your environment. Shine, but not so brightly that others feel dim. So the resistance you feel isn't always hatred. It's discomfort. It's people unconsciously protecting their own sense of stability. There's also something deeper happening beneath the surface. Fear of change. When someone rises, it signals movement, and movement threatens stability. If you transform your mindset, your finances, your lifestyle, it suggests that change is possible. And change forces decisions. If you can evolve, then others might have to ask themselves why they haven't. That question is uncomfortable. So instead of confronting it, many people protect themselves psychologically. They label ambition as obsession. Discipline becomes too intense. Big goals become unrealistic. It's not that they truly believe those things. It's that minimizing your growth makes their current position feel safer. Envy doesn't always look like anger. Sometimes it looks like indifference. Sometimes it looks like subtle criticism. Sometimes it even hides behind advice. Don't aim too high. Be careful, you might fail. Why not just be satisfied? On the surface, those sentences sound caring. Underneath, they can be projections of personal limits. Modern society also thrives on comparison. Social media intensifies it. Everyone sees everyone's progress in real time. Promotions, launches, transformations, achievements, constantly visible. That exposure increases pressure. So when someone close begins rising, it doesn't feel abstract. It feels immediate, personal. And comparison, when unmanaged, turns into resentment. There's also fear of abandonment. Growth changes priorities. It changes conversations. It changes how you spend your time. If you become more focused, you might not attend every gathering. If you become more ambitious, you might outgrow certain routines. People sense that shift and worry, sometimes unconsciously, about being left behind. So they try to hold you in place, not always out of malice, but out of attachment. The painful truth is that rising above often requires outgrowing environments that once felt comfortable. And not everyone around you will be ready for that version of you. That doesn't make them villains. It just means growth creates distance before it creates admiration. The hardest truth about rising above is this: society doesn't necessarily block you with walls. It slows you down with weight. Emotional weight, social weight, expectations, opinions, doubt. It's rarely dramatic. It's subtle pressure applied over time. And subtle pressure is powerful. When enough people question your direction, even slightly, it plants seeds of hesitation. You start second-guessing yourself. You wonder if you're being unrealistic. You question whether the friction is a sign to stop. This is where many dreams quietly fade. Not because they were impossible, but because the person carrying them grew tired of resisting gravity. Modern society is built around averages. Systems are designed for predictability. Schools prepare you for structured paths. Workplaces reward stability. Social circles reward familiarity. When you attempt something extraordinary, you naturally step outside those predictable lanes. That unpredictability makes people uncomfortable because it removes guarantees, and people crave guarantees. But here's the empowering part. Society doesn't allow or disallow anyone to rise. It simply reacts. The resistance you feel is often a reflection of collective fear. Fear of change, fear of comparison, fear of being left behind. When you understand that, the resistance becomes less personal. It's not always about you. It's about what your growth represents. Rising above requires emotional independence. It requires being okay with temporary misunderstanding. It requires tolerating seasons where support is quiet and belief has to come from within. Eventually, if you persist long enough, the narrative shifts. The same people who questioned you may admire you. The same effort that seemed excessive may look visionary. Success has a way of rewriting perception. But before recognition comes resilience. Before applause comes isolation. Society may not hand you permission to rise, but it cannot stop you if your commitment is stronger than its comfort. And the moment you stop seeking permission is often the moment you truly begin rising.